So the situation here is that we are considering December 21st, and that's the winter solstice. And during the winter solstice, the sun is directly overhead at 23.5 degrees south latitude. So if we consider Sandpoint, Idaho, which is located at 48 degrees latitude, the question here is to determine the angle of incidence at local noon. Okay, so again, at local noon, at a location at 23.5 degrees south latitude, the angle of incidence is 0, which means the sun is directly overhead. If we're talking about this being sort of the ground area here. So what should we consider as being factors that are going to determine the angle of incidence at Sandpoint, Idaho on this date? Well, there's two pieces of information here. One is the latitude of Sandpoint, Idaho at 48 degrees north latitude, and number two is the latitude at which the sun is directly overhead at 23.5 degrees south latitude. So if we think about how it's going to impact the angle of incidence, let's think about our local normal here. So we can consider this diagram down in this area. The way this works is that basically we add together both of the numbers that we're seeing here. So we can add together the 23.5 degrees south latitude, and what that would basically imply is that at the equator, if we were to ask this question, if we were at a location on the equator, at local noon the sun would be 23.5 degrees off from the direct angle of incidence. So that would be our angle of incidence at the equator. If we want to go all the way up to Sandpoint, Idaho at 48 degrees north latitude, well, what that actually means is we have to add another 48 degrees to our diagram here. So if we add together 23.5 and 48, that's going to give us our angle of incidence, and we can simply add those together here, and what we'll find out is that our angle of incidence at local noon, 23.5 plus 48, gives us a value of 71.5 degrees. Okay. Now you might want to convince yourself of this and think about at what latitude would the sun no longer be rising on December 21st. And that would basically imply that we'd have to go to a latitude at which the angle of incidence at local noon was 90 degrees. And you would quickly find out that you'd have to go and replace this 48 degrees north with 66.5 degrees north, and that's the Arctic Circle.